Good evening. We're going to start something a little bit different. We are going to do a range versus range. So you can see that I have 9-7 hearts here, but we're going to cover this up. We're going to use James Splitsuit Sweeney's hand template. I had it from the hand reading workbook that I picked up a while back. And I'm going to fill this out, and the plan is to kind of go through and pick out, look to see what I'm going to continue with, c-bet with, and so forth. So, in this hand, we're 8-handed. It's a 5 NL game, and we have villain 2 limps. He's playing 30% VPIP, 19% pre-flop raise. His I think this would be technically a mid position. His raise first in is 33%. When we look at the hands, it's only 27 hands. So, is there a possibility that we're getting misled about his pre-flop raise? Well, yeah, he had 1 raise, 1 out of 2 on the button, and then 2 out of 6 in mid position. So, maybe he's aggressive. Maybe he just got lucky on those hands. His pre-flop calls, 1 out of 1 for the cutoff, 1 out of 2 for mid position. He just called those. He didn't raise it. So I'm going to say since he didn't raise, he's probably not going to be overly strong. Now, as far as how wide he is, that's another story. So I'm going to assume, raise first in, probably could be raising something like that. Maybe with ace queen suited and offsuit. He is mid position. I think this is kind of a decent range that gets raised. He didn't raise, so I'm going to assume he has something that's not overly strong. So maybe something like that. King 9, Queen 9, possibly. He could be even tighter. I mean, that's 21% of hands. And then it folds to me, and I'm in the cutoff. So we have a limper, and now it's to me. And this is where I look at what I'm going to do. And as far as I'm concerned, I think it kind of looks at, just my regular cutoff range. And this is, I've kind of made my ranges and color coded them as far as raise first in, 3-bet call, and so forth. And I think in this spot, I have been using like raise first in anytime we have limpers, especially one limper. We can isolate them. Is this kind of the range that I should be using? Maybe not. This is cutoff ranges here, so you can see that I have like 8-6 in there and 6-5. So I think that's pretty wide range. And if we raise, what are we going to be accomplishing here? So I think if we raise, we're hoping to isolate this player. He obviously limps, and most better players don't limp. The other thing is, if I limp behind, then I'm going to incentivize some of these other players to also limp. And with a lot of these hands, I don't really want that. These suited connectors, I'm happy if I raise and just pick up the pot. But if I raise and fold, especially these middle and one gappers, they're going to be playable. I'll have a high amount of playability. I'm going to hit a lot of flops that allows me to double barrel. I think if I was hoping just to limp behind, which I don't do, but it could be a hand like maybe ace jack, ace 10, possibly. It definitely has to be suited, but I don't think this is a spot to limp. I think this is a spot to raise to isolate. And it's back to villain 2, and he calls, and the question is he going to call with his entire range? So that's mine. Is he going to call with his entire range? Maybe. We don't have any stats on his fold to 3-bet. And if we have fold to limp and call raise, or limp and fold. We don't have any stats, so this will be the first time that he is limp and called. Now, what do people do when they limp? I do think they tighten up a little bit, so I think what we're going to do is narrow his range a little bit and say that he's probably going to be a little bit tighter, maybe something like that. And now, when you look at ranges, I definitely have range advantage on him because I have the aces, kings, queens, and jacks. He doesn't have those because he didn't raise. But, you know, we do have to watch some of those middle cards. So we see a flop, and the flop comes down king of clubs, two of clubs, and 10 of hearts. And villain leads into us. And the question is, what does he lead into us with? Again, we don't have a whole lot of information on him. His stats look like he might be aggressive. I mean, 3-bet pre-flop, 2 out of 9. We have, you know, 0 donk betting. And I do see a note, and I think it might be related to the sand. So I don't think most players will donk a set or 2 pair. Of course they might, but I think it's going to be a top pair hand. And is it necessarily a big top pair hand? No, I don't think so. I think normally top pair hands at donk are going to be like top pair with a weak kicker. So it could be like a, you know, I'd say king 10, that's 2 pair, but it could be like a king 9, king 8. So perhaps my range or his range isn't strong enough. The other thing could be one of these like middle pair hands. So one of the 10s that he's betting here to see if I have a king, if I manage to hit it. Not sure about pocket pair below the second card. What we can do is kind of set it up and say, well, 40% chance that he does something like that, because we don't really know if he's actually going to do it or not. So we're going to say 40% on all of those. Oh, darn it. I guess that's the reset button. We'll just leave 40%. Make it less than 50% of the time. I think that's a little bit better. I don't think flush draws or open-ended straight draws are gonna donk. I don't think these combo draws are gonna donk. Maybe flush draw with a pair, but I mean we have those as part of donk, as his donk range. Flush draw with open-ended straight draw, I think that's more of a check raise. Flush draw and gut shot, I mean with the ace jack of clubs, that's a check raise. So I think we're looking at that. Now it's on us, and the question is, what do we do? I think if we raise, we set up the situation where I think 10s are, you know, could possibly fold. Kings are going to call. 10s could possibly fold, or they call now and then fold to a turn bet. Definitely they can do that. Because what they'll do is call, hoping that we check the turn and we can get to a river, and then he could see the river. But what should we be doing here? So I think here we're going to set up some of our groups and say we are looking at, I think, a set. We call. So let's use green for call. I think we use set for call. 2 pair is going to be a call. Over pair, I think, is going to be a call. Top pair hand, I think we can raise that. So let's raise top pair. Pocket pair below top pair, I think we can raise, because I think what we're going to do is if we raise, we set up the situation where on the turn, if we bet, we could get him to fold. Now, with his range, I don't think that's going to be the case. We may have to revise. Let's change that to a call. Middle pair could be a call. Let's see, raise, flush draw, open-ended straight draw, gut shots. I don't know, most of the time players aren't going to be donking. What about these combo draws? I do think those could come in for raises. So we've got like 19, about 20% calls, 21% raises. Our calls are definitely going to be, we can have middle pairs, and those middle pairs will have some of the gut shots, backdoor draws. I think that's probably what my ranges will be like. Let's get rid of some of those. So I think that's how we play it. So 41% of the hand of the time, and sometimes we just can completely miss this board, and we can't continue. Oh, I'm gonna do a call with a 2-card backdoor flush draw, because we do have that. If we do a 2-card gut shot, so those are bluffing calls, and they help balance our big cards. We might be unbalanced here. Let's get that. So let's use a lighter color. So those are premiums. Those are value hands. Those are bluffs. So it's about half and half. Yeah, that's these could be a value hand. Thinking if we call and he checks, we may be able to take it away, because he could be doing that with the tens, queen 10, 10 jack, and that's what those are for. And then our raising range, top pair is definitely for value, and then the rest of these are definitely our bets. So we're about 50-50 bluff to value both times. So I call. So I think with that call, what we're looking for is getting rid of those. Whoops. We still want that. Let's get those taken care of. All right, so that's our calling range, and you can see we're about 50-50 right there. 5 of clubs hits. Now, you can see that in my calling range, it really changes what I have. I mean, I can have a flush draw. I can still have, a flush. I can have sets. I can have 2 pairs, over pairs, top pairs. I can have all of those hands. What about this player? Once that hits, you can see he's mostly top pair heavy or below. So 35% is top pair, and then middle pair is 19%. 22% is pocket pair below that second card. Now he checks. And I honestly don't think he's going to check the flush. The set may check, because he has, he's scared of the flush, but I kind of think maybe a set of 5s would bet. I do think all of these hands, since I called, he's just going to be checking those. I think the flush draw, so the nut flush draw, second nut flush is that king queen of clubs. No, I think he's, yeah, those flush draws, they'll all check. So 88% of the time he's going to check. And then it's on me, and the question is, if I bet, what is he going to fold? I think he's probably calling top pair, but I think he's going to fold these weaker pairs, pocket pair below, second pair, middle pairs, and there's a possibility that he folds that top pair. If he calls, it's going to be with that nut draw. So if we look at something like that, at the nut flush or the weak flush draw, probably not even the weak, if we bet, he may only call with that, which is 77% calls. All right, and then versus my range, you can see that he's at 73% because we would be betting with our entire range, and I don't know if we necessarily would be betting with all of our range. Obviously, if we give him all of the top pair hands, king queen, king jack, we do have some potential to beat him. So I think he's checking. I think there's going to be some value for us to bet here. And that's what I do. I actually bet 13, so like 2/3. The question is, what am I going to bet? And what am I going to bet that high for that size? I think we're going to probably bet the flush. Flush is for value. The question is, are we going to bet all of the flushes for value? I don't think so. Not for that size. Like, it doesn't make sense for us to bet the ace queen, ace jack, ace 10. We have the nut flush. What is he really going to call? We're hoping he calls with the set, but does he really have a set? I mean, I don't think so. If you had a set, you would have been. If you had a set on this hand, you would have check raised me. You wouldn't have led at the flop. And by having the ace of clubs, we block the nut flush draw. If we don't have the clubs, now I think ace of clubs could potentially call. So I think with our bet, we can take out those nut flushes and say, okay, that's going to be a good betting range for us. I think if we have the nut flush, we just check behind and hope that he bets on the river. We try to get some value. What about a set? I think we bet our sets, and we probably bet that much. 2 pair, we probably bet. Over pair, I think we bet. Top pair, we probably bet. And then I think we're going to still be betting our flush draws here. If we have the ace of clubs, the lone ace of clubs, we would be happy to bet and take down the pot. Probably the second and the third. We're hoping that he folds the king while we missed. I think we bet our gut shot. So let's see what we'll use green here for our draws. So these are the bluffs. That's 42%. Our value is 20%. So we are about 2-1 here. We're betting 16. So hold on. So our bet is giving him 30%. He needs 30% equity to call. If he folds, well, what did I bet? 13.8. So yeah, 13.8 divided by 13.8 plus 18.6. 42%. So if he folds more than 42% of the time, I'm making money. It's an auto profit spot. Do I think that's what he's doing? I mean, he has 80, let's say 88, and if he only calls with the second nut flush and top pair, it's 35 out of 88. So 35 out of 88. So he's only continuing with 39%. So yeah, this is. I think the bet's gonna show some profit, and it's gonna show some profit even with my wide range. Granted, if he calls me, I'm likely going to be behind. So he calls, and I think what we're gonna do is say, okay, that's what he called with. This is our range, and then the 4 of spades hits. Villain 2 checks, and it's on us. So what's his range? Well, we basically have top pair. Hold on. So we called the second nut king queen. So he basically has the king is as far as I'm gonna get based on this analysis. He would call with queen of clubs, king, queen of clubs. He checks. Could we get any fold? Probably not. But what would we bet here? So let's do that. So what would we bet here? Oops, I guess I didn't do that. So yeah, when we bet here, and he calls, we're at 44%, 45%. So I think that's okay. But now when that 4 of spades comes out, I think we are probably behind. So now it comes down to what are we going to bet for value? I do think we're going to bet the flush, straight, set, 2 pair, the over pair, top pair. I think we bet for value. At least the ace king and the king queen, probably the king jack as well. But I think the king jack and the king queen we can probably just check. So let's see if we can add those. We're going to check those. And then we're going to check the pocket pair, queens and jacks, and probably the middle pair. So we're betting 35.29. We're checking 14.71. We're checking with I think with nothing. I do think we can bet with that ace high. So ace queen, ace jack, kind of as a bluff. And is it going to be with all of our bluffs? No, I don't think so. Let's see if we can do suit selection. I don't think we're not doing it with all the ace highs. We're going to do it with like the ace of clubs. Because we know, well, I take that back. We would be more likely to bet if we don't have the ace of clubs, because it means he could have called with the ace of clubs hoping to spike the nut flush, and now he missed the flush, so we can get him to fold if he was playing that ace. I think that's the rationale for this guy. He probably doesn't have it, so it comes down to the queen. If we don't have the queen of clubs, we should probably go ahead and bet, because he probably had it. But if we have the queen of clubs, we probably check. So I think that's kind of like a breakdown. We're going to be betting here 35%. I don't think we're going to have many bluffs in this range at all. It'll be for some value. If we have bluffs, it's going to be, one of these, maybe weak pair, ace 4 possibly. But even then, we have some value for the busted draws. And then the ace highs, the ace queen, ace jack, maybe like ace queen of hearts, ace jack of hearts. We have, let's see if we get the combos, 13 combos, 24 combos of bets, so maybe about 12 combos. Maybe about 12 combos. So I think that's where we're at. If we bet, we're going to likely be good. If we check, we're going to likely be behind. So of these, you can see that no matter what, we're going to be heading. It's going to be driven by all of those hands. I bet, and I bet fairly large. And I think he's only going to be calling with a king. So when he calls, I'm going to expect to be shown that king. Now he had king 9, which I didn't have in his range. I kind of assumed he was going to fold a bunch of stuff. I didn't even have it in his pre-flop range, so we missed this hand. But I think we kind of work through and hands that kind of made sense. So if you remember on the flop when he donked, it just seemed odd, because most of the time it's going to be top pair with a weak kicker. That fits it, and that was kind of like my clue that perhaps I didn't have a wide enough range pre-flop. I probably still wouldn't have given the king 9 off, but I think I would have had some of these king X suited hands. All right, so that's a hand. We're gonna try to plan to do one of these every day. Just again, as practice, to kind of think through our range and think through everybody else's range. If you enjoyed this, look tomorrow for a couple more.